I guess it would probably help if I pulled the microphone over to me, wouldn't it? Hello, everybody. How are we doing tonight? Let's see here. Let's actually bring this view up because, oh yeah, because I have the buttons now. Oh no. Let's see if the buttons actually work. Button? Button not working? Oh, button's probably going to explode. Oh, that should be fun. All right. Hello, doll. How are you doing, mate? Thank you so much for stopping by. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the lab. Let's see here. I always have a curiosity for whether or not I actually need to be wearing these things or not, but all right, let's see here. Let me double check a thing that was running in the background, which of course it is still running in the background because of all of the explosions from last stream. I was attempting to encode a combined VOD file for day 4 for Tuesday, and it's been taking a minute. I mean, I'm just doing I'm taking the video files and combining them in iMovie because I am basic when it comes to video processing. So, hello, Fuel. How are you doing, mate? Get some water real quick. Oh, let's see here. I am killing some time, and stream might be a little choppy at the moment. I apologize in advance if it is. The encoding is supposed to finish here in just a second. So, unfortunately, you all get to enjoy just a couple of moments of TCAM. Because that is all that I really have that I can do until this thing is finished. Did you remember to put the coffee this time? Well, so unfortunately, I have been drinking coffee all day long. I think I got up to four or five tumblers worth of coffee today. So instead, we're going to be making some matcha because the lab has absolutely gone from the technical content that you all absolutely love to TCAM. Unfortunately. But yeah, bear with me for just a moment as I wait for the encoder to complete. It was supposed to be done by now, but alas, what an improvement! I know, right? Oh, we have. I have no sponsorship in any way, shape, or form. I just legitimately enjoy this Japanese matcha from Jade Leaf. Available to you in many different forms. I get mine on Amazon. Because, hello, Prime Citizen. Welcome back to your Prime home. Would you like me to start a cup of Prime tea on your Prime kettle that you have put on your Prime counter? And I wish that was actually a little bit or some semblance of false, but no, basically everything that I have, literally everything that I have just shy of, for when it comes to tea sets, kettles, etc., it all came from Amazon. All right. How is everybody? How are we doing today? Admittedly, I have selfie cam up right now because I'm slightly afraid to start the Zoom whiteboard. Apparently, Zoom whiteboard is part of the reason that Streamlabs was struggle busing so much last stream. Again, that is a theory. That is I should have prefixed that with that is a theory. But I was doing some testing in between streams, and I noticed that anytime that I had Zoom up, and what I do is, so I have Zoom kind of sitting down at the bottom of the screen, and then there's a share screen that's actually, I think it's running right now. Let me double check. Oh, export was successful. Fantastic. Close UI movie. Thank you very much. So I have a share screen running right now, and I can see this screen. But the minute that I try to swap to the whiteboard view, Streamlabs crashes. So it's almost like because Zoom is doing something weird with the way, because whenever I have that view set inside of Streamlabs, it loads just fine. But if there's anything that interrupts that view, Streamlabs just explodes. So, all right. And I totally didn't even talk about the tea, but yes, that is a lovely cup of matcha tea. So, thank you very much, and we can actually get to the real content. Banana Cat, how are you doing, mate? Thanks so much for stopping by. Welcome back to the lab. We had to we were pausing for a moment for a cup of matcha because I was waiting for a VOD export to finish. Ooh, that's some good matcha. Oh yeah. All right, let's get the code cam going. Is that working? Oh, that is not working. Oh no. All right, so I'm gonna try something real quick. Does that work? Hey, that works. All righty. I've been playing around. I got a Stream Deck not too long ago, but I've slowly but surely been finding new ways to use the Stream Deck, new buttons to add to the Stream Deck, and I just started adding a bunch of buttons for scene transitions and like bringing up the secrets overlay instead of having to futz around with it on Streamlabs. Just automation and efficiency. That's the goal. Just got done with Zoom and the people are creepy. A Zoom full of creepy people? Not great. Also, pardon Streamlabs peeking in here just a bit. I need to adjust the camera. I too have been zooming it up these last couple weeks, and I keep changing the camera. I also kind of reorganized the room a little bit. I'll bring Selfie Cam up for just a second, so this is a little bit easier. So I think you all have seen this before. Obviously, I have my handy dandy laptop over here. But behind handy dandy laptop is now my server rack, which is not a whole lot going on that side, but where I have my Unraid box, where I have some of the networking equipment that kind of makes all of this work and gets connected. All of that exists on that server rack, and I actually just moved that from the closet over here. So I had to kind of readjust the room just a little bit. All right, so where we last left off, we in the last stream we were working on parsing the lines of chat, the lines of commands coming into our Twitch bot, our IRC listener, and oh, hello. I am KML, or I am KML, depending on how far into it you go. Hello. Thank you so much for stopping by. Welcome to the lab. This is very interesting and exciting stream. Hi, thank you. Thank you so much, mate. We'll listen on the background. No worries. Appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for stopping in. And 715, welcome back to the lab, mate. Thank you so much for stopping by. So last time we were working on parsing those lines into something that we could parse, that we could easily consume in the rest of the code. And the way that we decided to do that was by parsing those lines into a message struct. And so where we left off was we did manage to get the bot responding to commands, which, if I remember correctly, we should still have the sorcery command, although the bot is not connected. That is a kind of half of the challenge. We need to go into MedgeBot, and let's just do a source access token and then go run main.go. Bot actually has to be running in order for it to respond to said commands. There we go. Let's try that again. There we go. So the bot is actually responding to commands, which is fantastic. And we have a couple bits in the code that I think does make sense to revisit. And one of them was looking at, is there a cleaner way to do command processing? I think for the time being, the answer is possibly no. So obviously 715 and a couple of other viewers in the last stream were bringing up things like the potentiality of multiple prefixes, the kind of nuances between space delimited prefixes, space delimited parameters, things of that nature. So there's a lot of detail that we are kind of overlooking at the moment. And I am admittedly kind of taking a little bit of a blissful ignorance approach to that, at least for right now. The other side was looking at potentially returning the message struct from our read function instead of just returning the string and then doing the message processing externally. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. And horror, hello horror, welcome to the lab. We're going to learn about science and stuff, but click this link and tell me what's your favorite YouTube stuff. That sounds exactly like how I remember university, sadly. Black Marvel and all the people. Oh my God. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming by. Like, genuinely, the support it makes me want to cry. But I can't cry into my matcha because, oof. All right, let's stop this. Let's stop this share. We can probably go ahead and get Zoom out of here because I imagine that I'm probably not going to need that for anything. The Witch King of Marvel. Welcome. All right, so I did a lot of thinking over the last the last couple of days since the last stream, and I do think that I want to move the message struct into the read function. Let's see here. I'm sorry I couldn't make it last time. I fell asleep, and when I woke up, you weren't streaming anymore. That's all right, horror. That is, I mean, again, participation, presence, absence. Honestly, like you all just being here and you all just cheering me on is more than enough for me. Like, I genuinely appreciate you all. So don't worry about it, mate. And we are happy to have you here today. As I go into just absolute chaos and anarchy. So, I said I was going to do it. I'm going to do it. So I'm choosing to move the message struct inside of the IRC client. And I'm going to effectively make that as one of my interfaces for the IRC client. So here we're going to say message represents a line. Well, yeah, we'll just call it a line. A line of text from the IRC stream. How about that? Why not? Isn't programming all about chaos and anarchy? Pretty darn close. Effectively, programming is attempting to apply logic to the real world, which is chaos and anarchy. We attempt to model logically an illogical world, and people wonder why programming is so hard. But you know what? That makes it really, really fulfilling. Like, you remember that moment when we first got IRC connected? Like, when we saw the initial message, like we didn't even connect to a channel. We weren't even getting log messages. But just that one moment, whenever we saw that part, like, you remember that just absolute childlike celebration that I had? That's basically why I do programming. It's just fun. IRC client for connecting to, well, it's an IRC client. I mean, what else do you want to say there? It's an IRC client. It connects to the IRC. All right. Ping pong. Yes. So what I would like to do here is I would like to change this from string to message. And now what that does mean is that I need to pull in some of the parsing logic that I had in main.go, and I need to bring that into here. And slight caveat, if you will, about, this one. There we go. Slight caveat about multiple returns, because this is technically true with the string form. Ooh, why did it go all the way up there? So when this was returning a string, and in the case of error, we had to return an empty string. Same thing with object types. You still have to return something in this return block when you have multiple returns like this. So in this case, because we have to return a message of some kind, we return an empty struct, which is just the struct with empty curly braces. And here we need to bring in our processing. So let's come over to main.go. And let's see here. I need this part. Yes. So this part where we are pulling the message, we need to get that realigned. And let's see here, message string equals string message. And technically we could cut this down a little bit. So we could say strings dot trim space. Nope, there it goes. It's so weird when IDEs do that, but I know why they do it. But alas. So I want to do strings.trim space string message. So that's message string. And I do want to add a note here, trim space to get rid of RN, or in other words, CRLF. When it comes together, and it also works. Details. Minor details. All right, so we still have our to-do here for this will break when prefix is greater than 1 token. And 715 did bring up an interesting idea for basically looking for the colon, which I believe was the indication that that is a new I can't remember how the spec put it, but yeah. So we are intending to come back to that. There's just a couple of things that I want to address before we get to that point. And then here, instead of message string, we want to return message. So let me talk through that again, because it's been a bit since I messed with it. It's just the start of the prefix. Oh, I need to read that. I need to read the spec again. So the reason that I just made all those changes, and the reason that I moved that code out of main.go, is that effectively I want to create a more type safe, or I should call it a more strongly typed API. And this is something that you may hear. This is a term that you may hear in JavaScript, which I call stringly typed. And stringly typed literally means everything is a string, and then you parse out that string wherever it is that you need that string, wherever you need to parse that string. So in our original read method, this was a stringly typed method. It returned a string. And then after we got the string, we started doing all of our processing down here. And then after the processing was done, then we could come down and we could do, this, that, and the other. And that's all well and good if that string processing is kind of like it's central, it's quick. These things are not really passed around everywhere. But eventually, I do anticipate that we are going to start tacking on functionality to this bot. And so to sit there and pass around either the raw string itself and parse it in multiple places, or even to kind of parse the string but parse it out into what is effectively just a slice of strings and then pass that around, that didn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense either. Instead, what I personally prefer, and this is kind of the functional programming or functional programmer in me kind of coming out, I prefer to do that processing and then put the data that I need inside of a type, which in the case of Go, our types are structs. There's other types that you can use as well, but I am grossly oversimplifying. Apologies. And so now, everywhere in the code that we need to pass this message object around, they have a consistent way for interacting with that message line. And we could also create additional types on top of message, or we could create additional parsed types if we wanted to do so. But this just kind of gives it a more structured API. The return type of this read function becomes far more structured, and therefore we can use the compiler a lot more. So the compiler can kind of help us out with, okay, well, we are working with the command. So what command did we receive? Is it a ping? Great, return a pong. Same thing with private message. And it also kind of reads a little bit nicer. Admittedly, this is a little bit more aesthetic and it's a little more opinionated, or I should say it's a lot more opinionated, but I like this kind of the way that this code reads a lot better. Can you help me teach me how to hack Zoom? Unfortunately, no. At best, the only thing that I really know how to do is understand systems, but to find vulnerabilities and such, unfortunately, no. Not quite in my wheelhouse of skills that I have developed over the years. Okay. Another feature that, or another capability, I should say, that we technically just lost because I moved those things. Mention a pro hacker? 0 out of 10. I'm sorry, horror. I never learned to hack. I only learned to take data and then distribute it out everywhere. Because what else could you do? So previously, we kind of had down here. You can see stream going along. We had this ability of being kind of getting a stream of messages that show us like, hey, this message is coming in, and then here's the entire message. Well, we had that because we had the raw string coming out of read. We don't really have that capability here. So we have two options. Either we can attempt to recreate this, which is relatively simple, I think. It would be something that looks like this, parentheses s, and then we'd have message dot prefix, message dot command, and message dot params, except that message dot params is a slice of string. So for this log line, we would probably want to do a strings dot join. Do like that. And now we have our printf back. We also have, if I remember correctly, we have a bit of an error here because we don't have, because we don't have tokens1. Here we also have to do a strings.join. I feel like we're going to type this a lot. Message.params, and then we want to join that like so. I done goofed. I done goofed. I done goofed again. Boop. There we go. Oh, did I? I wasn't paying attention to the very code that I was writing. Let's get that out of there. Save that. So that should fix the compilation errors, it looks like. Okay. So we could do this, which is effectively just taking that that struct and then decomposing it again. Give me just a second. Need some more coffee. Some more coffee? Some more matcha. You can see how my brain is not quite working the way that that I intended to. We can either do this, or another option is we could come back into this read, do a backflip. You just want to see me break my neck, don't you? Parkour! Woof. Did you see it? Did you see the backflip? It was super fast. Oh, it's Friday. I'm so excited for Friday. So we could either do the decomposition in main.go, or if we think that we might use that code elsewhere, we can also create a string method, which returns a string. And that method returns exactly that, except that we don't use log.printf. We would do a format.sprintf, which is effectively just a way to create a string off of formatted text. And I done goofed again because I didn't. Oh, I did because I did the same thing that I did in the last one. Derp, derp, derp. Boop. Q. And what's this complaining about? It's complaining about something. Complaining about something. What you complaining about? What you complaining about? Oh. Star, star, star. Oh, is it suppressing links still? Is that what that was? Oh, is that still a thing? Oh, that's gonna make me very sad if that's still a thing. Ah, okay. Oof, can I do this? Can I do this live on stream? There we go. All right. Might be fixed. We'll find out. Although, please do make sure that any content that you are posting in the chat, please make sure that it is safe and it is not offensive or etc. Clips for the fastest backflip in the world is absolutely approved. And now it's on the internet for everyone to see. All right. Let's see. What do we have? What do we have? Oh, yes, because it's not message, it's M, so we can change that to message, and voila. So all I really did, again, is I have this this struct for message, and then I created a method, which the method, in this particular case, is a method that is available when you have an instance of a message. So if I go back to, let me save that, and then go back to main.go. And now, if I come down here, I can actually change this. I can change this, there we go, to just a single %s, and then I can do message.string. So this is kind of sort of ish. It's kind of sort of it's reminiscent of the toString method from Java. And I actually don't remember. I can't recall if string is actually an expected. I don't think there's a convention for string, if I remember correctly. If you do B, it breaks chat. Oh no. Why are we breaking chat? Let's see. Oh. Huh. I'm gonna have to dig into that. That's weird. Banana Cat breaking all the things, and you know what? That is technically chaos engineering. All right. So let's see here. So we got that back. We got this back. Okay. So. Oh, my face is too far away from the thing. Just making some notes here because we did do one thing. We technically did both things for those bits. So and you still need to enable links. I might have to dig into that off stream because the setting, the moderation setting that I added was or that I removed just now was block hyperlinks. So I'm not entirely sure why that wouldn't be working, but all right. So let's look at this part. So the other part that we kind of left off was this handling of commands. So command processing right now is pretty simplistic. We just have this: if we are in a private message, the process for a command is more or less if it's prefixed with a bang or with a exclamation point, as the non-technical world typically calls it. If it's prefixed with a bang plus some command, and it is a command that we recognize, then we will perform some kind of action. Let's see here. And then more or less all we really did was when we wanted to add a command into this bot, we just came down to this if command equals priv message, and then we just added more commands. For this particular set of commands, this is pretty simplistic, I would say. But could we do better? I think we could do better. Also, real quick sound check. Does anybody hear the lawnmower in the background? Because I hear the lawnmower very loud and clear right now. Let's see here. Okay. No lawnmower. Fantastic. Because it is like a freight train going by my window. Mostly because it's right there. But fantastic. Alrighty. Oh, and of course, I've been making all these changes, and we haven't done that one thing. You know that one thing? That one thing that we do? Nope. I made the thing larger. Let me bring that back down. Let me put that right there. Come down here, cancel, and we want to do another go run main.go just to make sure that everything is still working properly. So let's do a hello. World is still working. We're still getting our priv message. Everything seems to be okay. Huzzah! All right, so save that and let's go ahead and get those things committed. Try to keep track on topic so I don't miss questions. I broke this rule so many times. No worries, mate. And feel with the very good test here. Sorcery plus and sorcery both result in the same command. Yep, sure did. And that's mostly because of the has prefix. The has prefix doesn't necessarily care about if there is more stuff after. The only thing that we really care about is the first part of that string that exact substring. Welcome, sorcery. We are abusing the spam sorcery command at the moment. The Eldritch Empress has graced us with her presence. Welcome, sorcery. Thank you so much for stopping by. So we want to call this make read strongly typed with message struct. Okay. Oh dear. Field's just going to sit there and just spam that command for the entire stream. And all sorcery is going to see is just red bar, red bar, red bar, red bar. I apologize in advance. Oh, I am jealous. I am jealous, sorcery. But it's okay, because we got a bot to build. So, what can we do? What can we do to make this better? There are a couple of things, but I want to pause here for a second. Oh dear. Thankfully, there's a timer on that, so try not to spam her too much. But for chat, I do have a question. So we have a bot, and not only do we have a bot, we have commands, technically. I mean, they're basic commands, but they are indeed commands. Just gonna delete that for you real quick. No worries. And technically speaking, from a quote-unquote MVP perspective, we could conceivably call this deployable. Done project. Ship it. Absolutely. Ship it out into the ether, because out in the ether is where it can actually make us money. So, I have a question for chat. There is another side to all of this, which is the actual deployment side of the application. So, would chat rather have continue to work with the Go code and basically work on the cleanliness of the code, kind of add more features to it, etc., etc.? Or would we like to take a pause and deploy this thing and see it working potentially in a deployed environment? What's everybody feeling like? As I pause to realize that that my matcha needs some stirring. Deploy, deploy, okay. We got some deployment interest. Going once, going twice, deploy. I asked the project manager. He answered with something like, always deploy. Perfect. All right, let's get this thing deployed. First things first, though, got to get a couple of things going. So let me. That is a Firefox tab that I don't want open. I want this over here. Nothing sketchy. It's just a YouTube video for Gojira, Another World, which is a fantastic song if you are interested into the heavier side of things. Console.aws.amazon.com. Just going to get logged into Amazon here real quick. Going to use AWS for the sake of simplicity. And mostly because it's a thing that I have readily available for me, so. Oh, wait. I grabbed my phone and answered a message, but then I didn't turn around and do the access code. Let's see here. I need AWS. Code killed on me right before I was going to use it. That. All right. So That should be okay for right now. So let's bring that back off. All right. Welcome, everybody, to AWS, Amazon Web Services. I am going to assume that some people haven't seen AWS, so apologies in advance if this is redundant for some of you. Just going to do a quick overview. And I'm also going to grossly oversimplify AWS, so if there are any AWS experts in the room, prepare to be very disappointed. I apologize in advance. So AWS is a managed infrastructure platform, which is a lot of words. Effectively, AWS is Amazon's cloud. It has a ton of functionality, everything from being able to launch virtual machines, file storage or object storage, databases, Route 53 for DNS and networking. There is a ton. And I mean, you can just expand the services tab and see how many things are available inside of AWS. Now, I will go ahead and throw this out here. I've been using AWS for a good while now. I have maybe used like 10, 15, maybe 20%. 20% I hesitate to say because, oof. I mostly gravitate to a couple of services, but yeah, this is AWS. So what we need is, in order to deploy this code, we need to deploy this code to a server of some kind. Now, I have a bit of a preference. I like Docker. I love Docker. Docker is one of those things that I have come to gravitate towards, and it's not necessarily Docker itself, it's more the containerization side of things, because I hate development setup. I hate it. I hate it with a fiery passion. Docker. Yeah, that's round about the face that I get from people whenever I start talking about Docker. So Docker is effectively containerization. It is a layer of virtualization around your application. It's effectively packaging your application and all the dependencies that it needs into a box. Think about it that way. So Docker is my preferred because Docker simplifies deployment like nobody's business. Alternatively, what I think I'll showcase initially is just starting a server, just running an EC2 instance. Exactly. Anything that you do, it does not matter whether it's claiming to be serverless, or whether you're doing Docker, whether you're doing a web application deployment, whether you're doing a web server like Apache or Nginx or etc. Everything starts with a server. Serverless is such a silly word to be, in my opinion, but there is a server, there is a machine sitting somewhere that is running your code. That is how all of this works. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a running instance. And creating a running instance is effectively just creating a new server somewhere in the world, somewhere in the cloud. In this case, in the world would be in North Virginia, because that is the region that I am currently logged into. And I actually do need to put a secret up real quick. Do I have... have to double check if I have a key pair. I do not, so I do need to create one of those real quick. We're going to create a key pair. And I'm not showing this on stream because it is technically considered a secret. I'm just going to call this key pair stream. And application. I know I'm just speaking to the ether. Imagine that lock screen is doing some of the most interesting infrastructure work that you've ever heard of. Streambot. I don't know about you guys, but I think DevOps is pretty cool. I would never do DevOps full time, despite the fact that many, many people have tried to get me to do DevOps full time. I refuse to do DevOps full time. But that doesn't mean that I don't see the insane amount of value in having at least some semblance of understanding of DevOps tooling. Let's see here. Officer Wolf, welcome. Thank you very much for coming to the lab. Welcome to the wonderful world of attempting to code a Twitch bot, which actually at this point we have gotten to the point of attempting to deploy a Twitch bot. So welcome to the madness. You see a lock screen, basically a secret screen right now because I am messing with secrets. I want to call this chmod 400 that pem file. Okay, so that should be good. I'm just starting to programming in college. Fantastic. Welcome. I'm just going to go ahead and drop this in here. We do have a Discord. It's kind of a light Discord. There's not a whole lot going on. It's mostly just we'll call it just a chat Discord. But I love chatting with people, especially people that are going through uni or are starting to kind of start their careers in programming or have an interest in programming. So by all means, stop in, join up. It is, it's very light. It's not a very active Discord unless there are questions. But happy to hear how that's going for you. For an associate's in IT security. Ooh, oh, security. Oh, how I don't miss you. But that's super cool. That is, again, I would love to hear how that's going. And again, thank you for stopping by the lab. Okay, so we got a key pair. We have, oh, thank you so much for the follow, Officer Wolf. Thank you so much. Fun times with JavaScript. I mean, JavaScript is definitely one of those languages that I continue to use because it keeps coming up at work. Again, front end, back end, everything in between. It's not my favorite language. I'll be honest. I've said it. I know the internet is probably about to explode, but yes. There is a question and answer section. We don't do homework for people. Just full disclaimer. It's not there for answers. But more than happy to discuss questions. If you get stuck, if you're trying to understand something, please feel free to post that. I just want to know. I love understanding. Absolutely. So what I was doing kind of behind the secret screen is I was downloading an SSH key, a PEM file. And that PEM file is what is going to allow me secure remote access to this server that I'm about to create. Phrasing. And for this particular application, we don't really need a whole lot. Let's see what we have. When you go to launch an instance, you are greeted with a number of options. For the sake of simplicity, when you're first starting out, these first two options are probably the one that you want to go for. Now, again, I am personally very much a Linux fanboy, or really just a Unix fanboy in general. I'm working on a Mac. Almost all of my servers are Linux based, with the exception of my desktop, which is purely for gaming. I need a 72 core system. 715. Is you tempting me? Are you tempting me? Because I'm curious. Linux it to me is the most natural selection for server side applications, especially applications such as this. If you have the opportunity to use Linux over something like Windows, I'm almost always going to recommend it. Again, personal preference, personal opinion. That is not, well, anyway, yeah. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the Amazon Linux 2 AMI for x86. They also have ARM, which is super cool, but we're not going to use ARM. And then you get greeted by this. And this is where you choose the size of your instance. Now, as 715 is attempting to tempt me with, which I am so tempted to do, so we're probably going to do something like that at some point on this stream. I will invest the money to spin up one of these monstrosity machines with, let's see here. So this is, you're basically sizing your virtual machine. And this is where you start getting into what types of resources does your application actually need. In the testing phase, I always recommend trying a small machine unless you're using something really bulky. But for this, yeah, something very, very small is going to be more than fine. Thick machine. Does this cost a lot? It depends. The short answer is yes and no. No, because what you can do is you can actually search for AWS EC2 pricing. AWS EC2 pricing, you come to this page right here, and you have two options, on-demand and spot instances. I'm not going to go into the difference, but I'm probably going to do spot instances. Think of spot instances as like the used servers, and the used servers are cheaper, but they're not as reliable. Potentially, they are not as reliable, although we've run entire applications just on spot instances. It's great. So let's go to pricing. And so what this is, what Amazon's pricing model is for most services that they run is based on a per hour rate. So in our case, we would be running the server. I think it's a bare minimum of 1 hour. Yeah, I think they bill you bare minimum of 1 hour. So these are the ARM instances. $0.0092 per hour. That's pretty cheap. How about this? 1.5 cents per hour for a T2 medium, which we'll look at here in a second. Right? This here, 11 cents an hour for a T2 2X large. And let's look at these things. T2 2X large is an 8-core, 32 gigabyte of RAM machine. Exactly, Banana. Exactly. The big trap here, though, is, oh my lord, if you forget to turn this machine off. Because that hourly rate, like, let's bring up a calculator. All right, so we got, mostly I work off of the T2 or T3 series. Unless the application that I am working with has a very specific CPU-bound or memory-bound type of workload, I'll typically stick into the T3 machines because they're general purpose machines and they're actually pretty darn good. But let's say, let's take the T3 medium. So T3 medium is a 2-core, 4 gig machine. That may seem small in comparison to, today's typical desktops. Most server software doesn't actually use that much. Like, most server software is so far from actually using that amount of resources unless you just really, really unless you're using really bulky software. So T3 medium, 0.0. Oh, where'd it go? There you are. 0.125 per hour times 24 hours a day. That's 30 cents a day. That's not terrible. Okay. Times 7 days a week. Okay. $2 a week. times 4 week in a month. Okay, times 12 months in a year. $100 a year. So if you left this 2-core, 4 gig machine running all day, every day, just to have it running is $100 a year. What's the last $100 machine that somebody purchased? Oh, right. For me, it was the Raspberry Pi. So, where you really get wrecked, though. Raspberry Pi, yeah. Where you really get wrecked, though, is there are other charges as well. So we're not going to go into that too much because that is like a whole world in and of itself. Like understanding the AWS cloud, working with the AWS cloud, so on and so forth. I'm certified I'm a certified AWS solution architect, but even then, it's so much. There's so much information. Super useful to know, especially as a developer, because it really pushes you outside of the code and starts to make you realize just how much outside of this world, outside of the world of code, that it takes to get this thing running. All right, so for the sake of testing, we're going to do a T3 Micro. T3 Micro is pretty good. Arduino, yeah. 512 megahertz. Do you need more? Do you need more than 512 megahertz? No. I'm going to put that up for just a second. Technically not secret, but, just in case. I am going to request spot instances. I'm going to... The nice thing about spot instances is that spot instances, they allow you to request these instances for much cheaper. So for example, you can't see it right now, but I am requesting spot instances, and the normal rate for a T2 micro, or T3 micro, excuse me, is 0.0031. And they're roughly running at about the same rate. You can sometimes get instances for much cheaper. So actually, you know what? I think I won't request a spot instance since they're right at the same price. We don't want to mess with any of that. We don't want to specify CPU options. Shutdown behavior is stop. Shared tenancy, because I do not want to pay for a dedicated instance. We'll only have 8 gigs of storage space. Like, just throwing it out there, like how simple these applications actually are, and how little in terms of resources these applications typically need. Quick secret again. Sorry, I know I keep flashing up the secret screen. So we're going to do SSH access only to me. And we're going to call this the stream security group. Stream projects, review and launch. Bring that down. I don't think there's anything else in here that I need to be worried about, so I'll bring the screen back down. Okay, so what I'm effectively doing is I am effectively requesting a machine from Amazon. I'm saying, hey, Amazon, I have an application. I want to deploy an application to a machine. Please give me a machine. And in this case, I'm requesting 2 CPUs and 1 gigabyte of memory. And I'm also requesting 8 gigabytes of disk space, and I'm just tagging it, in this case, application streambot. I have some billing alerts set up so that it can tell me from an application to application basis how much these things are costing me. which is really nice. And we're going to choose the existing key pair of Stream, and we're going to launch the instance. I am requesting the instance through a web console. I am requesting a machine through a web console. Now, mind you, this is not a physical machine. Like, somebody's not going to a data center right now and deploying a physical 2-core 1 gig machine. No. I'm going to imagine that these are probably, we'll call it, well, based on the density of things like EPYC. If these were AMD EPYC machines, that could be upwards of 64 cores, 128 gigs, or 128 threads, excuse me, terabytes of RAM. They probably bare minimum have petabytes, if not exabytes, of storage capacity. So effectively, AWS has this massive pool of physical resources. And they carved me out this virtual machine, this virtual slice, this teeny tiny little droplet in the pool that is their massive amount of infrastructure. And that's what I get to use. Let me put the secrets up real quick again, just to make sure. I'm mostly being cautious because I don't want to accidentally leak public information. Because, you know, you got to be careful. You got to be careful on the internet. Okay. So that instance is currently listed as running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that IP address. Droplet? Oh no, DigitalOcean. Yes, so there are other cloud providers similar to AWS. Some of them specialize in very specific types of applications. Or specialize in different types of use cases. But you have things like AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft's Azure. You've got what I consider to be more specialized use cases, things like DigitalOcean, Heroku. There's a ton of them out there. Those are the ones that I tend to gravitate towards the most because they seem to be, A, they have fantastic support, B, they have a pretty decent uptime, and C, they're Googleable. Googleability of a cloud is insanely valuable to me. Just saying. Oh, there was some, there was a little bit of matcha left in that one. I need a mail server. Proton Mail? Very good email service. Very good email service. All right, so let's bring that back down. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up another terminal. SSH-I SSH stream.pem, and I want to connect to oh, it's because I can't use that that view. I have to use this view. I know you all are just like staring into the abyss. Oh, hello. Oh, right, because I can't just do mine. I have to do what is it? EC2-user at, and then that URL. All right, boop. I need a mail server. I mean, for my domain. I was looking into that for a brief period of time. I stopped very quickly. I'm not gonna lie. It seemed like a very complicated process to run a mail server, which is why I pay to have one. There we go. Okay, so I am currently inside of this EC2 server. And I think for the sake of simplicity, probably just gonna do a simple SCP. So let's come back over here. And let me exit out of this guy. Let me clear this out. So now we have a server sitting somewhere. What are we deploying to this server? It certainly is not all this code, because all of this code is... It would be very odd to take this code, copy it over into the server, and then go run main.go like we're doing with our local runs. What we need to do instead, exactly 715, we need to create a binary. So a binary is effectively just the code compiled into something that the machine can understand. And the way that we're going to do this, let me peek this makefile real quick, because I don't remember if I had secrets in here. I do not. I have a makefile. Yes, I am one of those people. I like makefiles. I don't know. Makefiles are fantastic. But what we effectively do is we run a command that is going to build our application. It's going to take that code and it's going to compile it down into a binary, at least in the case of Go. And this is one of the big reasons why I love Go as a language, because with Go, it creates a single binary. So in other words, to deploy our application is as simple as running go build and then copying that binary over to a server. Compare that to something like, say, Java. In order to deploy a Java application, wholly depends on how you build that Java application. You can potentially build a single jar file, or you can do the traditional way and deploy it to an application server, which is terrible, because then you have to install an application on your server, configure that application, and then take that jar file and then drop that file onto the server, but you have to put it in the right place. And then you have to make that app server aware. Yeah, most of the time we don't do that anymore. Most of the time we just create a self-contained jar file and plop it onto the server. Except that it's not truly self-contained, because you have to install Java on the server in order to run Java. Oof. It's gotten a heck of a lot better in the recent past. I will give them that. And thanks to Docker, it's gotten even easier. But with Go, make build. And now, if I look in this bin folder, I have this binary. It's a binary. It's about 6.8 megabytes. And it's 6.8 megabytes because it's basically bringing everything in. It's not really an optimized build, but you know what? 6.8 megabytes ain't that bad. It could be better. Trust me, it could be better. And we'll get to that. But now we have this file. So if I wanted to copy my application over, which, by the way, I can just run this bin Mejbot. Ta-da. Now, mind you, it's not getting the code that it needs. If I do a source and then if I do bin, there's our application. Instead of doing go run main.go, it is just running that binary directly. No release build context. And quick question, because I haven't encountered it yet, are binaries solely read in Linux? Oh no, that's just the way that my terminal colors binaries, and I think that's specifically for these style of Nick style binaries, if I remember correctly. But no, that's just my terminal color coding things. All right, 715 asked about release builds. I am curious. What is a release build? Matt, well, brought that up, but that's okay. There was nothing on there. Go release builds. Or are you talking about? Was there something specific that you were asking about 715? Let's see here. There's a couple of things in here that I was going to look for, but for the life of me, I cannot remember what they were. It's all right. So, to deploy this thing, because it is just a file, there's a tool in most Linux distributions called SCP. And SCP just stands for Secure Copy. And Secure Copy allows you to copy a file over SSH. So what I did previously was I did an SSH, and then I pointed to this stream.pem file, and then I connected with ec2-user at, and then a server URL here. And that connected this remote terminal, not LSD, definitely not LSD, question mark. That connected my terminal to this remote machine. So right now I am running commands on this machine that exists somewhere inside of AWS's cloud. SCP kind of does something similar. I was thinking, like, is it a debug build? No, it is not. So this is with just plain old Go build. It is just a standard build. I actually forget how to include debug symbols inside of the binary. I'm pretty sure that's built into the Go tooling. But no, this is a release build, or what could be considered a release binary. Let's see here. So scp-i.ssh stream.pem, and then I want to copy the bin mejbot to ec2-user at, and give me just a second here. I mean, technically speaking, there's really no, as far as I'm aware at least, there's no concern with having the server's IP address up, because it is going to be gone here in a minute. But just in case anybody was thinking about doing something nefarious. All right, so let me come over here. And would you look at that? Our binary is now up here. Ta-da! So now the curious question is, well, we still have to bring our, what is it? Oh my goodness. We have to bring our access token over as well. Because if we were to just run mejbot, oh, we can't execute the binary file. All right. Oh, I probably need to do something. Chmod plus x mejbot. Am I gonna? Yep. Okay. So I goofed. Here's an interesting thing about compiling for native execution, or natively compiling binaries. Fun fact: each different type of machine has a slightly different way that they execute files, and consequently, binaries have different makeup. It's different the way that a binary is built for, say, Windows and Mac versus Linux. Exactly 715. Now the Go tool, again with the LSD, get out of here. The Go vim makefile. Thank you. Go build attempts to be smart. When you are building your binary, Go is going to evaluate your current system. And if you don't tell it otherwise, it's just going to attempt to build a binary for the system that you are currently running on, if it knows about it, which it definitely knows Mac, which in system architecture world, it's called Darwin. Fun fact. You have Windows, you have Linux, you have ARM, and you have Darwin, because Mac called their system Darwin. It's fantastic. Let's see here. So, in order to make a build specifically for Linux, there's a couple of parameters that we need to make. And conveniently, DigitalOcean actually has a fantastic article about this. And I've kind of already done this, so I'm just gonna kind of scroll a little bit. Firefox, what are you complaining about, Marvel? You have a problem with the majestic Fox? With the majestic Inari? Just saying. Effectively, what it requires is these two environment variables. And that's all we have to do. To cross-compile our application, all it takes is two environment variables. And then the Go build tool does everything for us. Now, if you've never used a toolkit like C or C++, anything of that nature, cross-compilation is a pain. Working with GCC is a pain. This is so simple. I love it. I love it so much. So what we want to do is we need a Go OS equals, and in our case, we want Linux, and then our Go architecture, in this case, is AMD 64. And I know it's AMD 64 because when I was creating the instance, one of the options was, do you want to create an x86 instance or do you want to create a ARM instance? And it also had an attribute of 64-bit, hence the AMD 64. If that's confusing, or if it sounds confusing, it is confusing. So just throwing that out there. I'm going to... You know what? I'm just going to tack this onto here. Go OS equals Linux. And it was Go Arch, I think is what it was. No, get out of here. Go Arch. I keep forgetting if it's Go Arch or Go Architecture. Equals AMD 64. Go build main.go. Let's try that again, shall we? So now the Go compiler is taking our code and compiling it for a Linux distribution. And I'm just going to really quickly run that SCP command again. Get that out of there. And now if we come back over here, let's see if we can run that executable now. Would you look at that? Our executable is running. Our application is running. However, we have a small problem, and that is that we don't have our access token. We need our access token. We need it. So, back with the secrets. Are you done with the secrets yet? No, not even close. Not even close. We're going to call this .env. Just leak the access codes? Never. Never. We're going to say this is Twitch access token. That's going up as env. There it is. And we're going to source.env. You ready? Are you ready? Does Medjbot work? Medjbot works. Da 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 da. It shipped into production. We can realize nothing. No. This, so to kind of check mark ourselves, this code is now built. It is built into a single binary VR makefile, which the makefile is really just an automation. I did kind of gloss over that earlier. A makefile is just an automation over a series of commands, and I could have a bunch of commands here if I wanted to. So if I wanted to just do run would do, actually, it probably would just do go run main.go, maybe, right? I could have a bunch of commands inside of this makefile, and the makefile is really just automating the execution of these commands. So all I really need to remember, in this case, if I just have the make build, I could just run make, and make builds that file for me. Or I could remember to run make build, and make build is the one that drops this giant command off into my bin folder. Make is just automation. And again, I love automation. I am kind of a sucker for automation. Just saying. And now we have this application and it is running inside of this application. The yellow X. Oh, just that's just styling. All of this here is just styling for my terminal. So it tells me the start of a line, which folder I'm in, and then it also tells me which branch in Git that I'm currently on, which is super handy. And then this is the start. Do I use Screen or Tmux? I used to use Tmux. I don't really use Tmux anymore. I'll attribute that mostly to ignorance. Really, I'm going to attribute most of that to ignorance. I used to use Tmux as the as kind of like my tile manager, and I've just found that, especially as I got more and more comfortable with Vim, that I use Vim a lot more than I use Tmux. And also setting up the interaction between Vim and Tmux was really annoying, and it broke all the time. So yeah, I'm one of those silly people that doesn't use a multiplexer. The program would stop after you close the connection. Exactly, 715. So that's the next thing that we're going to talk about. And 715 is exactly right. So if I come back over here, you can see that the application is running. And if we just do a quick hello, it's working. It's doing exactly what the code was doing locally. But now, if I close that terminal, let's see if it's still working. Oh, still working. Where'd it go? It's gone. Why is that? The short answer is because my terminal closed. So let me bring this up here again. Bring up a new terminal, SSH into, oh, that's not what I want to do. Because terminal is closed. Exactly, Officer Wolf. So here we are. When I have a terminal open like this, you can consider this a session. So I am logged into this machine. I am running commands. I'm doing things within this session, including when I run the application, which at this point, because I have to source the env file again, there we go. Now we're connected again. But the minute that I close this session, the minute that I close this terminal, this application will stop running, because it's tied to this session. So this is where we would typically use some type of either system service, or in the case of Docker, the Docker daemon. And yes, I said daemon. Not demon as in D-E-M-O-N, but daemon, although it's really daemon. Tail-F, exactly. Which, just to say, tail-F is probably one of my most used commands ever. LS and CP and CD and all those, obviously, but in terms of like things that I use when I'm actually debugging things inside of inside of a server, tail-F. Yes, Docker. So I think in the last couple of minutes that we have here for the server, I think that we should definitely get Docker running. What is tail-F? Tail-F follows a file. So right now my terminal is waiting. And now let's go into Medgebot main.go. See how hello just showed up? And it showed up again, and it showed up again, and it showed up again. Tail basically is following this file, and when new updates to that file occur, or when they come in, tail will print that out to the console. Super useful for log files. When your application is running and it's spitting out logs into a log file, this is super freaking handy. Just saying. And now I got to go in and delete all those hellos because that will not compile, last I checked. Absolutely, mate. All right. So I'm going to go with the Docker approach. However, I do want to mention that there is a much easier option. In Linux-based systems, they have facilities to run applications in the background, such that whenever I close this this terminal, that application will still be running because the machine is still running, just my session has closed. And this is more or less called NoHup, N-O-H-U-P. Alternatively, you can use something more fancy like initd or systemd, exactly 715. Write to file. For the life of me, I can never remember the full output of NoHup. I'm not gonna lie. Standard output and standard error to different files like so, or to the same file. And basically looks like that. Okay. There's a caveat to NoHup, which is that it requires some finagling for it to be usable. But what I usually end up doing is I end up writing some kind of a start.sh script. Bin, let's say bin.sh. Why not? Let's run it in bin bash. Let's run it in bin.sh. Don't mind me. NoHup. And in this case, we want to do mejbot, pipe the output to log, call it a out.log, ampersand. So NoHup is effectively a utility that is going to run a command in the background for us. And then this weird alien glyphing that we're doing right now, this is basically taking all of that output that we typically get from our application, which of course, if I run mejbot again, all of these lines, these are log outputs. This is going to something called standard out. And we can pipe all of these logs into a file. So if I do this and I say out.log, now the real question is it actually going to a file? There it is. Cat out.log. Nope, I goofed. Yeah, I didn't do it properly. That's all right. My Linux system, I have my system theme like GLaDOS. Oh, that is so good. Oh. There was a point where I was in between last stream and this stream, I was thinking like, what could we do to turn this bot into GLaDOS? Because GLaDOS is just... GLaDOS is a spirit animal. She's just so good. Which, for anybody that doesn't know, this is GLaDOS. She's incredible. She is sassy as all hell. And I love that character. All right, let's see here. And then the other side to this, though, get NoHup PID. When you run an application with NoHup, what you're effectively doing is you are creating a process. And the process on a Linux system is assigned a process ID. Without that process ID, what basically happens is your application just disappears into the ether. And the only way to stop it is to ps-ef grep your command, which is more or less what this is doing. Not load. There. Let's do, how do I want to do this? You know what, I could just say start.sh, right? chmod plus x start.sh. Why did the caret not work? Why did the caret not work? Did I just gloss over that completely? Well, that's interesting. Huh. Why is that happening? Just for fun. Oh, that's very interesting. Why is that happening? Uh-oh. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem. Uh-oh. Is it not printing the standard out? That's a good question, 715. I thought that was... I wonder... Huh. I wonder if I did something funny. It's making me wonder if I did something funny in the code. Hang on. Let's see here. Vim main. Just double checking. No? Interesting. I wouldn't think that you would have to do that, but let's find out. Package log implements simple logging packages. Defines a type logger with methods for formatting output. Also has a predefined standard logger through print, fatal, and panic, which are easy to use in creating a logger manually. Okay. So that's important. If I'm reading this properly, the default logger that they create writes to standard error and prints the date and time of each logged message. So it's not writing to standard out, it's writing to standard error. And that, in theory, is why this is actually not showing up. So if we route standard error to standard out, which is what this hieroglyph does, that should... Oof. ps-ef grep mejbot. So there's our PID. Tail-f. Hey, remember that command? Out.log. Uh-oh. Error read standard in. Error read standard in. Error read standard in. Error read standard in. Yeah, that's kind of going to be a problem, because remember how we created that thing that allows me to send commands? Oh, that feature is coming back to bite me. Yeah. Let me come back here. You all remember this thing that we did? Yeah, that doesn't exist when oof. Okay. So let me collect my thoughts and kind of answer the questions in chat. So the reason that wasn't working let me get rid of that, is that by default, the log package, it creates a simple logger, a default logger, that writes to standard error, not standard out. And in case you didn't know, there are two different log streams, standard out and standard error. And as the name implies, one is for just standard output, and then one is for error output, or typically for error output. At least that's how I typically process them. However, when we run the Medjbot, oh, it doesn't have a history because, of course, when we run this, this is piping all standard output into out.log. We weren't running error anywhere. So if I write this to error.log, notice how nothing's printing on screen now? So now if we cat error.log, there's all of our stuff. However, we still have a problem. And that problem was that block of code that we added before to allow us to do debugging, to send IRC commands from standard in. Standard in was not available. So that's why it kept disconnecting when we were trying to run that command. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be lazy, and I'm just going to run make. Import not use buff.io. Yeah. Let's go into main.go. Come in here. Let's get rid of buff.io because we don't really use it. Quit. Make. Secret. Text file busy because I'm currently running it. Clear. ps-ef grep Medjbot kill -9, also known as kill with a vengeance. I think that's 3014. And that's also 3034. Okay, I was just killing the existing usage. You can also use et. Oh, am I about to learn a thing? Hang on a second. Medjbot, no. Medjbot, ampersand play out dot log. Nice. That's super cool. Today I learned. Because that is a heck of a lot easier to read than the 2 caret at 1 hieroglyph that I typically write. Buh. All right, let's cat out.log. Yeah. Thing was working. There we go. I think at caret combines both. Certainly looks like it. 715. Need context on the at command. Is that a question to me, or is that sorry, my brain just doubled over on itself. Sorry, context for your question, Officer Wolf? Both? It's fair. Let's see here. Statter, start. There we go. So in theory, we could simplify this to at, or there it is. So if I'm understanding this correctly, at caret, what does the and really do in Linux? Is it common like the and operator? Kind of, I think. So in this context, it's basically taking all standard output and standard error output, and it's combining them into a single log file, like 715 was pointing out. So again, you have standard out and you have standard error, and you can write to each of those streams separately in your application. And when you do this, it just drops standard out into that file. If you do this, it drops both standard out and standard error into that log file. And then add at the end runs it in the background. Exactly. Yep. So same character, two different use cases. And so the run in the background part was the important bit. We effectively want to run that command in the background such that whenever we exit out of this, whenever we exit out of this terminal, the application stays running. However, there's one other thing that I want to do, and that is to capture the PID, or the process ID. And the reason that I do this is because I typically write shell scripts to start and stop the application for me, kind of like what we're doing right now. And to get the PID is $bang, $bang. There we go. And we're going to call this medjbot.pid. Why not? And this looks something like, oh geez, I gotta do this again. ps-ef grep medjbot kill-9, which effectively kill-9 just means kill with a vengeance. Oh, we're not actually running it. Let's do start.sh. And now we have this medjbot.pid file. This PID file has an ID. It's a number that's assigned to that process. And so what I can do is I can say cat. How do I want to do this? Cat medjbot.pid xargs kill-9. At least I think I can do that. And then if we do a ps-ef grep medjbot, the application is gone. Can't you just pkill medjbot or pk all or pkill all? Okay, so it is pkill all. Good question. Let's find out. I've never used pkill. Start to this h, ps-ef grep medjbot. So now we have this running instance. And just to confirm, medjbot.pid also says 3184. But if we do pkill medjbot, does that do the same thing? That's cool. I am learning so much from you guys today, and I am loving it. Holy crap. That is a lot easier. Yeah, that is indeed a lot easier. Oh, so how does pkill work? Lookup or signal process based on a name and other attributes. Okay. Looks to the currently running process and lists the process IDs which match the selection criteria to standard out. All the criteria have to match. For example, pgrep-u root-sd will only list the processes called SHD and owned by root. Okay. pkill will send the specified signal by default sig term to each process instead of listing them on standard out. Oh, that is really cool. Huh. That is really cool. I could see that being potentially dangerous. In the case of medjbot, I'm fairly confident that there's not another running process, or at least there won't be another running process called medjbot on this tool. But that's really cool. Huh. And it also reduces the number of files that show up on this screen, which is really cool. Nice. So what I just demonstrated with this this start.sh script, this is the old school way of doing it. And so that that command that I ran to get rid of it, let me get out of here. There it is effectively reading the PID from that file, and then we use xargs, which just takes the output of the previous command and then tacks it onto the end of this command. So read that, xargs, kill -9, and it kills the process ID that's contained within that file. Whereas what 715 just demonstrated was a heck of a lot easier. I like it. Learn something new every day. And if I don't learn something new every day, I'm sad. So let's do a cat for out.log. And it's working. It's working, you guys. Or at least it looks like it's working. So let's do this. So we got a start.sh. And this is why I love Linux. Me too, Officer Wolf. Just saying. So if we run start.sh, and we'll just do a quick ps-ef grep mejbot. Okay, so that's running. We're going to exit. So then would you tail it? If I was debugging something, yes. And in fact, you know what? Let's just showcase that real quick. Secret, SCP, or not SCP, SSH. Not secret. Tail-f out.log. Bingo. So yes, if I am running the application, or if the application is running, and then say something goes wrong, I get an error message, or I get an error report of some kind, I will pop onto the server, tail the log file. And this is mostly in these kind of simple scenarios. We'll go over some much more complicated scenarios later because it gets really funky. And then I'll just tail-f the log file, and I'll watch to make sure that everything looks okay. And then from there, I'll start searching through the log file. I'll do like a cat out.log pipe grep error or something of that capacity. Remember how whenever we were going through some of these, and I was specifically adding these fatal prefixes, like fatal, error, etc. That's so that if I come onto here, I can cat the out.log and then grep specifically for error, and I can see whether or not there are specifically any error messages that have popped up at any given time. Or in this case, if I wanted to grep for PogChamp, well, there's your message about PogChamp. So it's a very handy debugging tool if you have access to the server like this and you have a simple setup for logging. I will say that this is not the typical setup, but yeah, there are some things to consider there. Do you need to cat it? I don't think so. I think grep has the ability to do the same thing, and you can pass it the file name. I'm just so used to catting the file and then piping that to grep for error. There's something about that feels very inefficient, effectively, that you're reading the entire file into memory, potentially, depending on your implementation. But yeah, I'm kind of showing my age a little bit. Okay, so this application is still running, and the thing that I can do to check that is I've exited the terminal. I came back in and it was still working, but if we do another hello command, it's still running. The bot is still running on this server, and that's probably the most basic deployment that we could possibly do. Is that not cool? Like, am I a giant nerd for for thinking that little things like that is cool? Because if I am, fantastic. I am absolutely a giant nerd. Stack Overflow tells me not to use cat grep. There's probably a good reason for that. I just ignore it. Yes, I mean, yeah, I am a giant nerd. Do you see the majesty, the nerdisms? It's just life. Again, this is absolutely my purpose in life. Like, this type of stuff is why I exist. It's to do stuff like this. Ooh, I love it. All right. What time is it? It is 6:21. Oh my goodness. There is an angry kitten outside of this door. Just saying. Unfortunately, didn't get to the Dockerization side of things. Yeah, didn't really get to the Dockerization side of things, and that's okay. I think that's probably a lot of fodder for the next stream, which I have no idea what's going on with my hair. My hair is just like going that way. Oh my goodness, it's backwards. Whatever. Maybe next time we'll do some Docker. I'll do some actual prep for doing a Dockerization side of things. How are we feeling, chat? How are we feeling about this bot? Do we want to keep going with the kind of more deployment side of things? Look at some more sophisticated deployments. So, for example, how would we deploy this with Docker? What does it even look like to Dockerize the app? How does it differ from what we just did? Which, for context, Dockerizing an application and then deploying that Docker container is what I do day to day in my day job as a developer, more so than what we just demonstrated. What we just demonstrated, I did call it like 5-6 years ago. Is that right? Math hard. Call it 5 or 6 years ago now. That was kind of the standard way of deploying these applications. Spin up a virtual machine, get an initd script set up, and then take your binary and deploy that out to the server. So shall we go further into the deployment side? Would love to see how Docker works. Sweet. The one bot command I think would be cool would be if a command was said, pop up a GIF on screen. I wonder if we could make that happen. Because there is a thing in Streamlabs to do that. I'd be curious. OG Jake, thank you so much for the follow, mate. Welcome to the lab. Welcome to, unfortunately, the end of the lab, but welcome to the lab, where we are attempting to code all the things for science. I am fairly confident that that is doable. That's kind of bot command that I would normally use, but making it myself would be cool. I like it. I really like that idea, actually. Much appreciated, Officer Wolf. Huh. And I was actually just looking into what it takes to have like that notification that just popped up, what that actually is under the hood. So we could potentially dig into that. I might add that as a. I'm popping back onto the iPad for just a second. Let's maybe add that as a stretch goal for the stream. We'll call this command a GIF with sound. There are some interesting things that I think we could do there. Probably Twitch's pub sub options. But yeah, I would love to dig into that. I'm very curious now. All right. Well, again, everybody, thank you very much for coming out. Thank you so much for the support, and thank you very much for the participation. I mean, this has been super fun. It's been super fun pretty much every episode. Is .NET good to learn and C#? I think so. Especially around me in North Carolina. So I'm in the US, spoiler alert. C# and Java are the two most common languages that are being asked for on the recruiter market. So C sharp is definitely a good one, and me personally, I kind of like C sharp. I don't really use it as much, but I was I fell into the Java side of the camp. But C sharp absolutely is a good one. And also, Vent1C, thank you so much for stopping by. Welcome to the lab, where we attempt to code a Twitch bot, deploy it, see things work, see things break. I mean, basically, we just want to do all the things. Hey, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. Again, for everybody that is new to the lab, just to call this out really quickly, this is effectively a raw live coding stream, and what that means for me is that I am basically going to show you guys everything. You're going to see the successes, you're going to see the failures, you're going to see me Googling various things. Like, I'm going to forget syntax for Go all the time. I'm going to forget CLI commands all the time. You are not going to see my access tokens. Get out of here, 715. No, you're probably going to see my access tokens at some point, but that's why I have automated scripts. Okay, let me just throw this out here. This is why revoke access token exists, because I know I'm going to screw it up one time. I know I'm going to do it. One of these streams I will do it. I already technically have, and that I'm sorry, that access token has already been scrubbed. So if you were watching the VOD from Tuesday, it's gone. But this is a raw stream, so you're going to see everything. And the reason that I wanted to do it this way is because I wanted to show you guys what my day-to-day as a software developer actually is. And I wanted to kind of break that facade of what it means to be a software developer. And the genesis for that was I was doing a talk at a university, and one of the questions that I got was, well, how do you get better at programming not using Google? And I kind of paused, and I was like, why would you do that? Like, I use Google all day, every day, like literally all day, every day. And they just kind of looked at me like I had said something weird. So I really want to break that facade. I want you guys to see, if you are not software developers yourself, if you're not software developers professionally, like university, not very well representative, or at least mine wasn't. I don't want to speak for everybody, but yeah, like, I want to show you guys what my actual day-to-day looks like, and it looks exactly like this. So that's the point of the lab. The point of the lab is to just show everything, experiment, hope that it works, but when it doesn't, hopefully learn from it. So welcome everybody. Thank you again for the support. You're hindering yourself, like tying your hands behind your back. Yeah, like imagine trying to code like this. That's kind of what it feels like. Beat your nose against the keyboard and hope you type the right thing. My school exam, you write code on paper without... I don't know what it is. I hate that so much. Like, I get not using Google, sure, on an exam, but like at least give them the compiler. We invented compilers for a reason. It's so that we can check if we're doing things properly, so that we don't have to cram every single detail into our brains. Ooh, I'm getting tilted for it. I just want to make this a PSA to everybody out there. Developers have developer tools to help us catch when we do things wrong, because we do things wrong. And that's what the tools are there for, to help you. We don't write code on paper. We write designs on paper. Absolutely, we write designs on paper. And typically I'm designing things before I ever touch a line of code. But still. The reason is too much cheating. Yeah. You can cheat all you want in college. You can cheat all you want in real life. Like, we don't call it cheating. We call it using resources. But seriously, like, don't cheat by like stealing somebody's idea and then taking credit for it. That's just scummy. Don't do that. You will never understand the why and the how of doing things. Exactly. Like, what does writing code on paper teach you? It teaches you to write on paper. Congratulations. You don't do that in the real world. In the real world, you use tools. Here's a fun question that I want to ask, and I know I said I had to go, but I'm genuinely curious. Like, for the people that are in university, or for the people that are going through like boot camps or code schools, things of that nature, how much of that curriculum is team based? Like, how much of your work is work that you do in teams versus work that you're doing individually? Just you writing code and then turning in an assignment and expecting a grade. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about it. 90% is in teams. Wow. You are not representative of the experience I had. 50% in tech school. Huh. Okay. It's not terrible. You can use teams, just need to put both names down. Okay, so that's not bad. That's a lot better than I thought it was going to be, not going to lie. Mine was like 10% team-based. The only reason that I knew how to work in teams is because of my freelancing work prior. Like, I mean, in exams, we're on our own, but for assignments outside, it's in two-person teams, sometimes more. Okay. So I want to make a comment, even though there's usually some backlash that comes to this, which is good. Work in teams more. And hopefully also get some exposure to team-based software. And I'm mostly talking about version control. So something like Git. GIT for anybody that's never heard of it before. Working in teams and using version control and using those tools to coordinate between your team, that is such a core skill in today's industry, and it hurts me that that's not taught as a core competency. Like my university, they only throw maybe 10 to 20% of the project work is actually in teams. You don't learn how to work with people. And I don't know of any software project that I've been on in the decade and a half or so that I've been doing this. I've not been on a project by myself. There's always been somebody else. There's always been a group of people that were building the software. So, yeah. Anyway, rant over. Have I seen the GitHub CLI? Yes, I use it. Like Hub New, Hub Create, Hub PR. Oh. Being a CLI, a primary CLI developer, or at least primarily working in the CLI, is like the Hub CLI, the GitHub CLI. Oh, it saved me so much time. The new PR functionality, like I don't go to the website anymore. I go to the website to do things like share that piece, I still create issues from GitHub UI, but to create PRs, to merge PRs, to create new repositories, all that kind of fun, I use the GitHub CLI. It's fantastic. Ew, other people. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm a hermit. I like my kind of personal bubble. But working with people is very necessary. The world is built on software that is built by teams. We had a practical course this semester where we had 2 small exercise sets we did in 2-person teams. After that, we were 2 mini projects and 2 projects in 4-person teams using Git. That's awesome. Like, that is what I wish more schools did. I wish they did more, like, that team-based work that is more representative of how we bloody build software in the real world. And I wish that they would teach Git. Like, I wish that they would at least teach Git. Yes, there's more than just Git. There's Git, there's Mercurial, there's SVN, blah, 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 whatever. But at least get familiarity with a version control system. And I'm purely going off of my own personal observer bias, which is that Git always comes up. Git is just such a fantastic piece of software, and it's so worth learning. All right. I'm enjoying just vibing here. Again, I really appreciate you all coming out. Thank you so much for the support, and thank you so much everybody for the participation as well. Like, I love doing this. This is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm streaming. And it's so fun to have you guys come along for the ride. And I've learned so much in, like, I've been doing this for a decade and a half, but I'm still learning things. Like, there's still things that I can pick up from you guys, and that's why I like being in these types. I like being in situations where I can feed off of the people in the room. I don't like being the smartest person in the room. I hate that. And I rarely am the smartest person in the room. Like, the point of being in a room with smart people is to feed off of each other. And that's what I feel like I have here. So it's so much fun, and I appreciate you all being here. The only Git I know is Get Good. Yeah, I know. And somebody probably about to bring the hammer down on you if you keep telling somebody to get good, horror. If y'all have no context for what I'm talking about, there is a fantastic streamer by the name of A Sorcery and Sarcasm who streams Dark Souls content at the moment, and she's also going to be doing other types of game. But yeah, no, I ain't. Don't worry, it's good. She sounds stupid. Fool, what is you talking about? She is amazing. She's a fantastic streamer. She builds wholesome communities, and you should definitely give her a look, because it is a fantastic stream. It is a wholesome community, and it's such a vibe chat. Like, wholesome chat all around. Some good people. That's where most of the chat right now comes from. Is actually from that community. How would you define being the smartest person in a room? People think differently, and through that have a different perspective. Exactly, feel like. So I've been a consultant. I've been working as a consultant for a couple of years now, which just basically means that I work for a company. I'm full-time employed by a company. And then that company contracts me out to other companies to work as a technical expert in XYZ, whatever tech it is that they're sending me into. And there is a stigma, I'll call it. I want to call it a stigma, that consultants are always expected to be the smartest people in the room. Probably because we're expensive as shit. Like, ooh. Like, I see my hourly rate that my company charges for me, and I'm like, I'm not making that kind of money. Damn. So we're expensive, so I guess those companies probably expect us to be experts and to be really smart. But B, I've also been working a lot recently as either a tech lead / architect, like that level, and everybody assigns value, they assign weight when you have a role like that. I hate roles. I hate them with a fiery passion. I don't give a shit what you call me. Call me the bloody janitor. As long as I get to code and I get to solve problems, like, I'm bloody happy. But when you have that title, people seem to just naturally expect that you either have the answers or you are just immediately capable of getting the answer or coming to the answer. And it kind of creates that opinion, that perspective that you are the smartest person in the room. And unfortunately, I have learned, kind of in being a tech lead, that sometimes people won't challenge your opinion because they think because you're the tech lead, that you're the smartest person in the room, and therefore there's no point in challenging you, which I disagree with wholeheartedly. Like, I don't care if you're a tech lead, if you're a software architect, or if you've been working in software for 50 plus years. You should be able to ask questions. You should always be able to challenge something, even if it's just because you don't understand it. Like, that should be a natural thing, but it's not, and it makes me sad. And every time that I'm put as a tech lead on a project, that's like one of the first things that I try to impress upon the team is, hey, I'm not the smartest person in the room. I'm not going to be the smartest person in the room. And I hope that nobody expects that any of us is going to be the smartest person in the room. Instead, we are in a room. We are smart people in a room. We should take advantage of that. We should work with each other, and we should build off of each other. I always ask stupid questions. There is no such thing as a stupid question. If you ask the same question 5 times and you're getting the same answer, borderline, but no, I do not believe in stupid questions. And I think I actually put that in Discord at some point. I don't believe in stupid questions. Like, curiosity and you not knowing something is fine. Like, it's perfectly fine. Oh, we're getting philosophical tonight. I like it. Always looking to improve the code too, make it shorter or faster. That's what I always love. Exactly. Clean code. Make it work, make it right, make it pretty. In that order, preferably. And then optimize the hell out of it. I wonder if this is still working. Let's see here. Quote. Fancy is harder to debug than simple. Damn right. Optimize if you need to. Exactly. Optimization without measurement is guessing, which I'm pretty sure that quote is in there somewhere, and I do not remember who said it. I do not remember who said that, but that stuck with me. If you really think about it, you optimizing a piece of code that you don't know is slow is just you guessing, and that has changed my opinion on how I optimize code. Cough, cough. What, are you calling that unoptimized code? No, we just need an RTX 3090. We just need more hardware. Like, the software is fine. Just throw more hardware at it. I actually remember growing up and that being the excuse. Like, the software is fine. Just throw more hardware at it. It's like, or you could write the software better? Question mark? No, that's too hard, and it's too hard to maintain, and blah, blah, blah. We won't get into that. All right. Well, I think that's probably going to do it for tonight, chat. Thank you again so much for coming out. Thank you for coming to the lab. The lab welcomes everybody, and it is so nice to have all of you. I really appreciate it. Next time, we're coming back my brain just went whoop. Next Tuesday, when we come back to this code, we will look at Dockerizing it, and we'll look at what is the difference between the Dockerized form and the standard deployment form that we're doing right now. And we may play a little bit with that idea of making a GIF show up on the stream. I'm genuinely curious to see how that works. So thank you all, everybody. Hope you have a good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever it is for you. And I will see you all in the next one. So take care, everybody. Mwah.